Hey, Tex.
Oops, if I turn on my mic. Or my speaker, rather.
Hello, everyone.
Howdy.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hello.
sorry, apologies, I haven't been talking. Gonna knock out a few things as we're letting everyone come in. Right now, we've got the chair, some developer advocates, and our special guest.
So we're still waiting for more board members or committee members.
More committee members, yes. Yeah. We make sure we are Gucci. I believe so. PRB, yeah. Hi, Ben. We're just waiting for committee members, and you guys are pretty quick up on the agenda, so we'll get to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, it is 5 after. I want to get started. We'll record this call and get the other committee members informed of what we're discussing. We just cannot resolve anything or vote on anything because we don't have quorum. Are we already recording, Tex?
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome everyone to this open source committee meeting. Today is April 16. I'm so happy you're all here. On the agenda here, let me share my screen. We have the agenda in ClickUp. What am I sharing? Does anyone see anything yet?
Not yet.
Yeah. Stop sharing. Let's try this again. Still says I'm sharing. You want to share text? Mine is not cooperating.
Yeah, I've got more to share as it is, so that should be fine. Okay. Are we live?
Yay! I can see your shared screen.
Good deal.
And ClickUp should be our agenda. There it is. All right.
As per usual, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so let's start off with a check-in with the developer advocates. Thank you for being here, developer advocates. Do you want to give a quick 1 or 2 minute update? If you're trying to speak, you're still on mute. Please unmute so we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Dan, Emmanuel, Haroon, anything from any of you?
Yes, so we're starting Q2 on the developer advocate program. We have plans to shake up a bit of the working group sessions this quarter, mainly focusing on to give insights on what comes after people have now started building. So we'll try to find a few community members who have gone the journey, build something on Cardano, and see if they can provide insights to what comes after building a product, how do you get it to people's hands, and just finding or communicating to your target audience. So that's the general plan of how we want to focus on the working group sessions. I think that's all I have for now pertaining to the working group sessions, unless another advocate has anything to add.
Hello, everyone. I think nothing to add. Emmanuel said it all. Thank you.
All right.
Georgia,
Well, thank you. Good luck as you're entering Q2. Looking forward to what you will accomplish now. Moving on to the next topic on our agenda today, MLab's tooling project. And I believe we have a guest.
Do you guys have a preference
Yeah.
of which we start with?
I don't. Luke, do you?
Well, I mean, in order we submitted, maybe Plutonomicon and a Covenant might be the best ones, and then the other three, whenever. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
All right. So previously we discussed these and we had asked a few questions. Let me try to see if I can get this in a better viewable format. Oh, that's not going to be readable at that point. So, Luke, go ahead. And I can kind of scroll from.
I mean, I think the arguments should hopefully land for themselves. I mean, for Plutonomicon, it's so first of all, we answered the questions you had to the best of our abilities. Plutonomicon is probably the most kind of like open source, and CTL is probably the most open source sort of, I guess the one that would fit your definitions of that, the project scope that you're looking for the best. It has quite a lot of support, as you can see there. It's been incorporated into many teams. Indigo, Platonic Systems, Liquid, Fourier Labs have all done work on these, and also many of them have done forks. Let's see, external contributors engaged with it. And we kind of looked through the history of the protocol to see, the tool, and found that, we had several teams that were also contributing to it and making suggestions and hitting issues as that was laid out in the second argument there, the second response there. So I think what we tried to show is that this is not an exhaustive list of adopters or or people have necessarily contributed, posted PRs, posted issues, things of that nature. It's what we can find because it is a little bit sparse, the information, and it takes a little bit of sleuthing just to kind of go through repos and find things. And people don't always announce their involvement with a particular project, especially if it's a closed source step. So that's just kind of like a twist in the whole works there. But yeah, we tried to show that we do feel that CTL, we think, at least in spirit, hits some of the criteria that you sort of laid out. And then let me get my notes in front of me. Where are they? I don't know, Ben, do you have anything to add while I'm just pulling up the document on my own machine?
I guess another argument in favor of CTL is just that there has been a ton of funding from a lot of different organizations, MLabs clients inclusive, but also direct from IOG, Catalyst over multiple rounds. This is something that the community has built over a long period of time, and I wouldn't want to wind that down while it's still in use out in the ecosystem. Yeah, that's all. Mainly we want to keep this alive, get it. We've recently gone through some steps with CTL to make it easier to use by sort of breaking it up into smaller components. And at this point, I'd say we want to revise our documentation, get it stronger for people to use each of the individual pieces, and also open things up. I think one of the biggest limitations with CTL is that it is in PureScript. So the nice thing about PureScript is it compiles to JavaScript, and we can have a JavaScript interface that's going to be much more accessible and make it even more usable for people. So those are sort of the steps that we're looking to take, either through this funding or whatever avenues we're able to pursue. Yeah, I mean, we're certainly also looking at Treasury Proposal Direct as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the questions I think we had. Maybe we should bring it up. So we have potential, like if we don't find funding through this avenue, we would probably try through the Treasury proposal. So wanted to just be upfront, I think, about that. And then, of course, we don't want to double dip. So we would do whatever sort of mechanics are necessary to avoid that. So just wanted to flag that. We had so if you see under the funding delineation section there, we've had a history, as I mentioned, when this process was begun. And it's kind of trying to keep things up with the changing state of the Cardano. And then at the same time, which I think is well aligned with, I think is the second pillar of the Cardano 2030 vision, with basically, improving adoptability in DevX. We've developed the scope we had actually proposed in Fund 14, Project Catalyst, which wasn't funded, is a good thing to prioritize, which is basically introducing JavaScript bindings to, again, get away from PureScript. So that's kind of outlined in the funding delineation section. And then one of the sort of caveats is that, yes, we are the main maintainers. We've had some input from external teams, as I mentioned. However, it is something that is largely an in-house push in terms of maintainership. So we hope that with this kind of broadening this sort of interface, making it more JavaScript, more traditional stack friendly, that will help alleviate that factor and alleviate the buzz factor on the MLabs, if that makes sense. I think that's kind of the general argument. I don't know if I missed anything, but yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I don't think in our policy we have something against you seeking also other funding if you get funded from us. What we want to see and what we want to support is your open source practices, and showing us that you are taking contributions from outside goes a really long way. And we'll look also at your open source policy, that you have good README, a contributing file, that you're managing the issue tracker, all of those things that a healthy open source project needs. Those are then what we are looking for to support with our funding. And I think this is for the tooling program, right? Tooling support program, or is this for the maintainer or retainer program where you are seeking a community maintainer to join the project?
It was the tooling support program.
Yeah. Yeah, might also
Yeah.
be interesting maybe to have a community maintainer and help with just community management things and focusing on the community open source practices to support your internal maintainer team.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't turn down help. At the same time, I would say the problems facing this now suite of tools come down more to technical development than necessarily community management at this point.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, just from my side, I'll check who else may have joined here in a moment. Is there a roadmap aligned with this maintenance schedule? I recognize that was not a question on the original application, and so I'll apologize in that regard. Basically, there is a potential for change. It hasn't officially changed in the tooling documentation as of yet, but that we may extend to cover maintenance in terms of major upgrades, like hard forks and things of that nature. Is that more where this maintenance is based, or are we talking like in general maintenance of the tool still?
Yeah, general bug fixes, the usability improvements that we mentioned, and of course hard fork compatibility. Those would be that's essentially our roadmap. We can give you something more detailed, but if you're looking for something off the cuff, that's it.
Okay. Noting that this is carried on for a long time, I recognize we're not yet at quorum, but from the committee members that are here, Georg, Reshma, Sebastian, any further questions, or are you leaning one way or the other here in terms of whether or not you would be open to funding this?
Yeah, this is Georg. From what I'm hearing, I'm open to funding this. I do want to make sure that the checklist that we have all checks out. I haven't looked at that in a while. And then I think we can vote on this in our Discord channel.
Okay. So this may be a bit preemptive, but at least on this one, to give you a next step here, Ben and Luke, could you guys kind of draft up the amount of funding and some different milestones associated with that maintenance schedule?
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a type of template, or is kind of general templates of Catalyst and the Treasury, is that a good enough document to align with?
The standard Intersect template for milestones would be sufficient.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. Yep.
But you have to remember that we have in the Git book the guardrails and the definition of the parameters of the program, right? In terms of budget and milestones. So you should follow first that content and then start to deliver the information text is asking for.
Okay, I think I'm aware of that Git book.
Yeah,
but I guess if I can't find it, it's just a email away, right? Or I
can
jump to the Discord.
You can share the link.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for sharing about CTL. Was there another project?
There is. The next
We
one
actually
here
applied with
is-
several of our projects
is.
way back when. One thing that was left out, the Plutonomicon is also a documentation set that we had put into motion that kind of runs parallel to CTL. So I think that may actually also include a documentation program that we had. We'll get you more details as we fill out that application.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this case here, over to Covenant.
Yeah, Covenant. So Covenant is a sort of a compilation middleware, you could call it. So the idea is it's for language developers who might be trying to do all kinds of things and just want an efficient Plutus compatible language out of the other side. So we do actually have some public adoption with Conma, who you may or may not be aware of. They're a company building on Cardano. They're building quite a number of different sort of on-chain data tracking solutions. The current work they're doing is working with Draper and the United Nations Development Program to essentially build a number of devices related to carbon capture and storage. So these are tracking weather in some cases. They're tracking other sort of ambient conditions that contribute to carbon sequestering in forestry or in sort of other environments. They also have a lot to do with carbon credit trading. So that's the kind of the business that they're in. They are building a language that they would like kind of correctness compiled into Plutus. They're also building this language to sort of cross-compile into Solana, etc. So that's sort of we may help them with the multi-chain language aspect of it. There's certainly other companies out there that are looking to build DSLs, domain-specific languages for Cardano, and the idea is, yeah, if the big languages aren't quite a fit for whatever reason, Covenant can serve as a way to go from, once you've kind of parsed your language up into an intermediate representation, to a fast Plutus compatible language. So we're kind of doing half the job for anyone building a compiler. Its lead maintainer would be here, but he's in New Zealand, so this is around midnight for him. He would call it sort of the LLVM for Plutus, if people are familiar with LLVM, what it does.
I think it might be worth pointing out too, though, that we've had a lot of interaction in the repo and activity from the maintain or the adopter.
Yeah,
and,
they're also directly contributing and offering patches on different things. Absolutely,
and it's become a big part of their Haskell Ledger project too, which is actually another project, Catalyst funded initiative. So just wanted to point out that it's integrating in that way.
Mm-hmm. And Covenant itself was initially Catalyst funded.
Yes.
I don't know if I missed this in the explanation there, but the original application also has that for further adoption, or part of the build here is that there's a lack of cross front-end tooling for languages targeting UPLC. So would that be like an explicit milestone of new development here, or?
In this case, Covenant is the cross front-end tooling. So this is what it could do, and if we see further adoption, what we could roll out is additional tooling for anything using Covenant on the front end, anything using Covenant on the back end with different front ends. Part of the problems with a lot of these different compilations into Plutus Core is they're all using a different process. So you're probably aware Plinth uses a plugin to the Haskell compiler itself. Plutarch uses a direct compiler implemented in Haskell, and then Icon uses its own compilation pipelines. So that means that there's a lot of different ways that the same kind of idea can be expressed and compiled into Plutus Core. And that makes it somewhat difficult to have tooling that effectively goes across all of these different sorts of languages. Yeah.
Do see we have Jordan here now. Actually, I may have missed him for a little bit. So Georg, Jordan, Reshma, Sebastian, any comments, questions? And if you are ready, do you have a sentiment towards approval on this?
Could we have a discussion, a focus discussion today in Discord? I would like to. This information is fundamental to consider. So
Sure.
I would like to revisit the applications, the documentation, and start to reflect in the course of the day to make a decision today, if there is no objection. Thanks a lot, and thanks for coming on the upstream.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll discuss this
Okay.
on Discord.
I will add this information to the original applications and link those all for review. But real quick, while we have them here, I just want to run through these other ones. Maybe we keep this to 2 or 3 minutes, guys.
Sure.
Ben and Luke. So this is YTXP lib.
Yeah. So YTXP lib is a system for creating indirection in Cardano smart contracts. It's originally implemented for Plutarch, but I believe you can use it across any different language in different ways. As far as Plinth or ICANN as well. It was originally developed for JED. It is used across a few different projects, as I believe there's some adoption also by Phil over at Anastasia Labs. Essentially what it does is it allows you to securely and easily use what's commonly known as the withdrawing zero trick, or delegating things off to a minting policy. So what this lets you do is kind of just take a piece of your logic in a smart contract that might be changeable and turn it into something that you can configure where you're going to point at different contracts. So if you're using this, for example, to run a protocol like JED, you might use this for governance, where you have, hey, this is the main script. We always want this script address to be the same, but we also want to have some logic that we can change through a governance action. So introducing sort of all of the tooling necessary to make that logic upgradable. So in short, this gives you upgradable scripts on Cardano.
All right. TX Village.
TX Village is a Rust pipeline for building transactions on Cardano, including an indexer, sort of all the off-chain tooling that you'll need. So there's TX Bakery and TX Village. TX Bakery is essentially the indexer. It does have a novel approach, which is very, very simple for creating transactions, because you're only really creating the transaction context that Plutus cares about, and it will kind of build out the rest of the transaction for you. So this is managing coin selection. It's managing all the other components that might go into creating a smart contract transaction. The script context is what you're actually building.
All right. And the last one, a little bit correlated with this one here, is the Lambda buffers.
Yeah, Lambda buffers was built by the same team. Lambda buffers is for type sharing across sort of the different stacks that you might typically have to deal with on Cardano. So Haskell, Rust, JavaScript. It is sort of built on protocol buffers from Google. So if you're familiar with that, it's a fast, type-safe way to transfer information across languages. Similar to JSON, but with stronger typing information, and it's faster to transmit because it's in a binary format rather than a text format. This was also developed with Catalyst funding and by the same team, and we certainly believe that it's useful given the amount of sort of Rust and JavaScript that people are traversing, and sometimes they're going to pull into Haskell as well these days. That they can kind of quickly and easily establish types across all of their systems.
Alrighty. Any final comments before I move this over to Discord for the committee? Sorry, Georg.
Yeah, thank you. Of all the tools that you present today, that we looked at today, CTL has the strongest open source evidence of some engagement and adoption. And so that is the one I'm currently seeing the clearest path towards funding in our program. The others look more like you are the ones building them and using them. Outside engagement, outside usage, outside contributions seem to be less so. So I see them as having less of a fit from what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, that's fair. CTL is like years older than the others. So it makes sense that it has that that status with other adopters as well.
It is worth, I think, underlining though that the Conma adoption is completely organic, and I think fits with the sort of impetus of this group, or this funding mechanism, I guess. So that was not something we pulled in, for Covenant. And that was someone who discovered the tooling because it's very, very unique and it's very, very research based and new, frankly. However, it's also very exciting in some ways. So this is why I think we have, someone who's adopting so early in the process, and we like to facilitate that too. Just as a point to underline.
Thank you.
All right. If I may, before we move on, I do want to express a gratitude, and hopefully this is felt by the committee as well, of thanks to the NLabs team for being patient with us. This has been much longer than expected in terms of a review process, but thank you for bearing with us to get the right information and do things properly. So,
yeah, definitely happy to facilitate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming today.
All right. Georg, next year is the budget, if you'd like to say a few notes.
All right, yes, let's go into the budget. The committee has been working on a new budget to continue some of our projects. Some of our projects or programs are moving to a different host or are not going to be continued. The ones that we are having some good success, like the tooling sustainability, the maintainer retainer, developer advocate, the strategic event presence, the metrics, all of those, we are seeking funding to continue that work. And I think we have a almost complete budget proposal. We had met yesterday. There were a few small things that still need to be done, but the overall structure of the proposal stands. What is the timeline? When do we need to submit this again?
So the budget process opened today, but we will not have the necessary tools to submit our ADA deposit to the Treasury until early next week. So basically there is tomorrow and over the weekend for additional comments or feedback. And then assuming a little bit of leeway here is between Georg and myself, the kind of the final review and touch up of the missing items.
Yep, perfect. So we'll post the budget on our internal Discord. All the committee members, please read it through, clean it up. If you see a typo, fix the typo. If you think the argument why something is important can be strengthened, please do that. If there's, bye Benjamin, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we're on the finishing stretches of putting our budget together. The overall framework, the amounts, all of that is decided. So it's really just polishing it at this point. Comments, thoughts, discussion? All right, then we move on to the maintainer retainer program task expectations. Is this an open discussion or do we have to vote?
It's a bit of an open discussion. It's also a bit of a, if you're willing to, please pick this up and give something for us to utilize moving forward. Allow me to clarify for a moment. I believe it's here. So I put together, with the use of a helpful friend, just a draft of what this looks like. So I would say from a committee perspective, this is in the appropriate maintainer retainer folder. You can feel free to come in here, and if we need to edit this, based on formatting, I am trying to keep this to one page. So the idea here would be to stay within 3 or stay within these lines just for sharing purposes. But once a project actually gets this, I've given them the freedom to adjust this to their project and send that back to me. What happens is that this will then populate into this file. I don't have a problem sharing this because it's going to be shared publicly anyway. But whatever the maintainers are that we have for month 1, their tasks will be listed here, so on and so forth with the accordant months of the program. Now it's important that I've only gone out as far as our current contract will allow. And so right now, this June, July of 2026 is the, if I'm not mistaken, latest possible month 1 that we have. Details on that is that we signed a contract with Handamio in February, and that gives us 18 months from the official signatory date, 18 months of program usage under our current fees. So based on what is currently budgeted, we do have to cut off applications at a certain point. So we do have probably about 60-ish days. It's roughly somewhere between the 20th and 24th of June as the last day that we would need to have. That's essentially the cutoff for onboarding maintainers into this program. Or rather, they need to sign their contract by that date. So this all kind of bleeds out. But if somebody wants to prescribe exactly how we want to receive these tasks from a project, great. If this works well enough and we allow them to adjust as needed, that's fine as well. And yeah, this kind of picks up on the next 2 here. So do we want to touch task expectations, or have I put together something that is basic enough to keep moving forward, or stringent enough to keep moving forward? And then what do we want to do to stack up on interviews? Obviously, we do have the summit coming up, but could everyone kind of put together some various time slots? If it has to be hour by hour, that's great. But if there are blocks from time to time, like you have 2 or 3 hours on this day every single week, or these couple of days over the next 6 weeks or so, I think that applies to everybody except for maybe yourself, Georg. I know your timetable is a little bit less pending the election outcome. Hopefully that's not too quick, or any questions on what I was explaining there?
For the task expectations, what is the goal of having this? That we make sure that the maintainers we are funding are staying actively engaged and supporting the projects, right?
Basically, this is our ability to either like pre-approve. We prescribe the details in which these tasks should be aligned. Pardon me, I try to find a better way to explain that. Right now, everything is up to the project, which is in one case maybe how it should be. But if there's something specific that we want to make sure is covered, then we would need to ask the project to specifically comply or provide a a task of that nature or provide tasks in a certain way that they are easily trackable or approvable by the OSC when we start looking at task completion.
Just a question. What you presented in the previous document is the template, right? That we potentially we facilitate to the projects, right?
Yes. So so to every project team, the maintainer teams of projects that are enrolled in the maintainer retainer program and have an assigned maintainer, I have provided them this draft and said, hey, this is something that in basic nature, if you have nothing else, they can comply with this. It's standard pieces that a community maintainer should be able to address. But for certain projects where they don't expect a ton of actual ingrained development work, if there's something that needs to be more centered on community management or information sharing, anything of that nature, then they have the ability to adjust the monthly tasks for the community maintainer accordingly.
All right, thanks.
So I agree with this approach. I have a concern about the language in here, because when I'm looking at this maintain issue and PR responsiveness, this is month 2, the first item. And then month 3 is continue triage review activities, which I think is the same thing. And then we go and to month 5, continue issue PR management. And so I feel like, and then in baseline, issues and PRs do not stall. The task, I think, is always the same, and I disagree with using different language to express that, unless there is a deeper meaning and these are different things.
I would divert that to any developer in the room that wants to speak to the readability of that language, and if that means something different to you as a respondent. But I do take the feedback, and if we want to make it the same for each month, I don't see an issue with that. In general, where issues and PRs may not stall, there was a previous area in which they did, and there are still issues that they do stall and time out, depending on the project. So that would be the purpose behind having this in here, and that's essentially the quick checkbox. Again, we can look at something that projects have actually already fed back to, right? This one here is community management focus, so establish a presence in Discord, daily monitoring for community questions, and then getting familiar with the GitHub issues and the common pain points. That's kind of like a quick response. Somebody could submit an issue. Well, actually, it's here in this part of the documentation, and they can start pointing different ways. This one here, it looks like it kind of stuck with some of the basic language that was there. So establish a triage cadence. This is different from the following months, right? Where in following months, they should be complying with the cadence that they established. But I'll have this here.
Yeah, I like the idea of giving some guidance on saying here during the first month, you get familiar, you find out how the project works, etc., etc. And then during the following months, you maintain that cadence, you keep the issues and PRs triaged and everything flowing. And I also like the idea that is in the list of starting to address some older issues and closing those and updating the documentation. So overall, I like this approach. I like giving a checklist, having something, and then when it comes to reporting, we can ask for, I don't want to create too much overhead for the maintainers. How do we do the reporting so that they can show, hey, we are doing the things we need to do, but not spend a lot of time collecting evidence and creating a report, because that is distracting.
So here's an actual platform view of the task from the administration perspective. So what'll happen is that we have the ask for month one. This one was a little bit extended where there was ongoing responsibilities that were aligned with. So this first box has limited characters, so everything in here will be grayed out, right? It'll be there as a suggestion for what and how they respond to this, but essentially at a bare minimum they should announce, hey, I'm complying with or I've adjusted to I've done the ongoing responsibilities, I've kept up with this, and then they would say, for establishing a triage cadence that looks like this, right? They can simply go out and tab and whatever, because this is all copy pastable if I'm not mistaken. Additionally, it's pretty standard markdown format. But this box is where they would type when they're actually completing the work. This is just what the task itself looks like, and how we share that. As far as the amount of work that's in there, I definitely understand the feedback is not having it be too much. This is kind of a middle ground between us harping down on exactly every action that they took as a maintainer in that repository, which is much harder to track. And as part of the program, we ask the developers, the maintainers themselves, to feed this back and say, what actually did you do that answers what you were tasked with doing? So
yeah, we also created the dashboard. I think we first need to figure out the migration of the dashboard before we embed it into our process again. But we have that available, and a quick check on the dashboard. Here's the current response time for issues. That's a single number quickly looked up that can be included in the report.
Yes, when it comes to the data dashboard, we will be able to we'll be able to utilize this in the future. As of right now, as you mentioned, it's not something that we would actively use until migration is complete. But yes, some of these we will be able to denote, hey, we can check this via the dashboard. And in that case, we can absolve a requirement from the maintainer to write about it if it's something that we can actually track visibly. So.
Okay. Well, that's all my comment. I feel like I've been dominating the discussion. Reshma, Sebastian, Jordan.
Just a question. From the maintainer side, the reporting will be done by the project, right? Not directly by the maintainer.
The maintainer has the responsibility to report on what they've done.
All right. And we as a committee and with the assistance of the open source office will go and check with the project, or
that's an additional step. I believe the way that we have the program designed is that we will grade the maintainer based off of what information they provide explicitly. Mm-hmm. What I have asked, and forgive me, I don't remember if this is explicitly detailed in the program. In future, as we make adjustments, I will make sure that this is added. But I did ask, because one project team came back to me and they said, well, so what else do you need from us? And so I said, from time to time, quarterly would be a good way of looking at it. Could the core project team, right, or the source project team provide an update of how happy they are with the maintainer?
Right.
In their opinion, are they achieving the tasks and whatnot? We don't have a way or a method, and it may be too much. Also, additional transaction costs to be adding the project team in here to do duplicate reporting. So if they just forward along their reports or raise any issues, should they have them, to the open source committee, or myself as the program or project manager in this case, then that would be sufficient on a quarterly basis. So right now, I don't think it's fully documented, but as we learn over the next 6 months, we can definitely make sure that that's documented in the future process, and hopefully pick that up with the teams that we're working with currently as well.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Sebastian, do you mind to take a look at this file when you get a chance, just to see if we pull this into CSV, will that at some point work for us to send it to the back end to load tasks?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I'll jump back to the agenda for just 1 second. The last thing that I had on here was metadata. This was more of an announcement. So just awareness that I need to write out some metadata for us getting the funds for the accelerator program and the project support services essentially into a custodian. So different than doing contracts like we've done for every other program. I have been provisionally offered a faster way to get access to those funds. So that's something that I'm also working on in the background to get those programs moving. As that's the end of the agenda, I do still have more for you guys, so I apologize. But I would like to have you guys look over this. I'm going to share the link, but I do apologize. It is only accessible by the committee members at this time. This is the Q1 benefit report. This is required as part of a milestone acceptance form. Excuse me. And so if we can get approval on this here, just a general approval, just saying, hey, this works. This is very similar to what we did for the Q4 report. Then at that point we can I can move along and get this over to Georg and over to the back office for fulfillment. Is getting more travel budget in our wallet. So.
All right. Thank you, Tex. I'll give it a read and respond on Discord.
And I've got it to 4 pages there spaced out. If you see an event that was attended by an OSC member and it's missing from this page, please definitely let me know. But I believe I got everything to also be inclusive of the developer advocate event that was attended. So, or the event attended by developer advocates, rather. Okay. Let me see if I still have this one here as well. I may or may not. Well, I got it here. Another report that is out here for review is the Q1 progress report. So if you've not had a chance to take a look at this, please definitely do so. I believe we've already addressed, or there were a number of committee members that addressed a couple of the issues directly on the GitHub project board. So we should be okay. Special thanks to Bernard for compiling this report for us. A few questions and comments that I'm addressing that way. But we do have a completed report. I'm still going to double check and verify links. And a few comments for myself to address, but this is another one that is milestone dependent to make sure we have the funds to pay the developer advocates for their final term, so final quarter. This one I will just share in the Discord there.
Okay. Well, thank you. Bernard is not here, but thank you, Bernard, for taking the lead on this. Does that is that everything text that you need from us right now?
I believe so, but I'll leave this to any questions or comments, updates. We're in the meeting, so if there's anything that we need to address, now would be the time.
Okay. Reshma, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Thank you, Reshma. Jordan, do you have anything?
Just a small item. So are we on standby for voting for the tooling projects then on Discord? Is it going to be happening soon?
Yes, I'm going to put some polls out just in a moment here. As the meeting concludes, there was a request to carry on the discussion in Discord. So we'll kind of let that feather out as you step away from the meeting. And we're kind of right at time there, but please make sure to contribute to that discussion, and I will post the polls. If you feel that you do not need to participate in the discussion, you're confident in your decision, then you can just respond right away. But I will put out 5 separate polls. I'll put them out for 1 week just so that they have the proper time, but I would prefer to close these out on Monday or Tuesday if possible. If I put it for 3 days, I'll close sometime on Sunday, so I don't want to be unfair. So I'll put them all out for 7 days, and it's just simply going to be the name of the tool and a yes or no. I don't believe we need an abstain option here unless somebody calls for it right now.
That works.
No abstain option.
No, just yes, no. That's good. All right, thank you. Then let's close the meeting. Oh, Sebastian, I didn't ask you. Do you have anything?
Oh, all good. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the session.
Close the meeting then. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. See you on Discord.
Take care.
Yeah.
All right.